So we're here to tell you something of the story of this sacred place, St.Patricks Church. It's a story of 175 years old, of the prayer, the faith and the generosity of the people of this parish of Marhan or Drumshanbo. First of all, for people who are not familiar with St. Patrick's Church, the church here is situated at the same place as the Port Clare Convent. Also here for many years as a centre of contemplative and close prayer for the community and for the church indeed throughout Ireland. So we're in a very sacred place. Built 175 years ago, the time of great poverty, time just of the famine time. So this church had its origins in a time of great suffering and sadness. So the very stones of the church are sacred and holy and a gift from our ancestors to us. During that time there have been many renovations. The most recent in 1951 that many people still remember. Then there was the 1984 renovation. So almost 40 years later, it was felt that the church needed to be refurbished. One of the first things that was to be considered was to make the church more easily accessible for people with mobility difficulties. Then the pandemic arrived. All churches were closed from St. Patrick's Day. And when builders were allowed to go back to work, we decided to take advantage that the church would be closed for the next 2 months and that we would begin the refurbishment work.
So I'm Shane McGovern, and I was the building contractor on this project. I have a company called CETA Construction. I'm from Drumshanbo, so this will be the church where I was baptised and where I got my communion and my confirmation. And in more recent years where I was married, and I have 4 sons and they were all baptised here. So I suppose this process basically started with Father Frankie and Enda asking me to take a look at the church and give my opinion as to how we could possibly give it a facelift and maybe improve certain aspects of it. We had a couple of key items like painting and electrics, and it kind of evolved as the process went along. When COVID-19 meant that the church was going to be closed for a prolonged period, we decided that we should use that opportunity to speed up the process. So we got together again, Father Frankie and Enda and Jerry Mulvey and I, and we met here and we set out a kind of a basic plan for starting. So once we got the job up and running, it became obvious that we probably needed a bit of professional guidance. So at that stage, we figured an architect would have been a crucial ingredient, and we got Tommy Flynn on board. He's an architect that I work a lot with and have a good personal relationship with. So I felt that I could bounce some things off him and that he was going to obviously give us a good input on the design elements.
My earliest memories of this church was coming to midnight mass. My grandparents were from Drumshanbo, and we used to be in grannies, and then we'd come down to midnight mass, and I was always amazed by the beauty of the church. I suppose my vision for the project was taking the whole COVID thing and the whole busy lives that we all have. I think a church should be somewhere that when you come into it, there's a sense of calm, a sense of contemplation, you know, a nice space to gather your thoughts and actually hear your inner self. And I think what I was trying to achieve was something that was reflective and maybe serene or just calm. I suppose the biggest issue that I felt in the church was the lighting. I felt the lighting wasn't right. There's a lot of very bright lights from above coming down on you, and it just feels very harsh. It's not conducive to a sense of calm. So what we did was we put an LED rope light all the way around at cornice level, and it just gives a lovely soft glow. into the church, and it shows up the beautiful timber roof trusses. I suppose once the lighting was sorted out, it was a case then of trying to come up with a palette of materials and colours that were conducive to that's calm, the sense of calm that I was trying to achieve. And I mean, this building is such a beautiful building anyway. You've got the roof trusses, you've got the paneling on the walls, you've got beautiful stained glass windows behind the altar. So I suppose what we're trying to do is put in a very neutral background. So the colour on the walls and the ceiling is actually the same, but when you look at it in different light, it doesn't actually, they all look different depending on where you see them. And we used basically a palette of greys, a dark grey at the skirting, and then a sort of slightly lighter one on the bottom level, and then a slightly shade lighter again for the walls and the ceiling. The next important thing after the colour on the walls and sorting at that is the floor, because it's a very big area. And we went for what has turned out to be maybe a little controversial choice for carpet. I remember being in the church a few days before it opened, and the seats were just gone down, and somebody came in and they were walking through, and they just said, "Oh, it's strange that you put the seats down before they put the carpet on the underlay." And I thought, that's great. I love getting a reaction like that, because at least when you get a reaction, you know you've done something right. Whereas if someone doesn't notice anything, well then, I think that's good. But the carpet is based on it's like an urban retreat, is what it's called. And basically the walkways are like granite. And then the turquoisey colour is lichen, so it's based on the lichens that would grow on paths that are not well worn. So I suppose that's what we're trying to do. Another element of trying to create a sense of calm and a sense of space within the church was to remove the confessionals. There was built-in confessionals over on the women's side and on the men's side under the gallery. And they were in quite a dark wood, and it just sucked an awful lot of the light out of the church. When that was removed, on the women's side, you can see that it's the only gable wall in the church that actually doesn't have a gallery in front of it. So it's a really big space. And looking at it through, actually this is my favourite view of the church, is looking across the sanctuary through the two Gothic arches at that gable wall. Another beautiful element of the church is the Gothic arches. While they're very beautiful, they just were missing something. And so what we did was we put lighting just around the top of the capitals to light the arches, and we painted the columns a colour similar to the colour in the carpet. And it just lifted everything. Some of the other important elements of the church that we modified were the Stations of the Cross. We had some beautiful hand-carved olive wood stations, which Gavin from ICS Furniture had remodelled and done a fabulous job on them.
The company was founded in 1972 by my father, Charlie. Originally, we would have been making basic church furniture. He would have originally been working with a company in Ballinamore who were also making church furniture. There's a real tradition in this area for making church furniture for the whole of the country. He then set up on his own. I would have grown up making furniture with him over the years. I then studied furniture in High Wycombe for 4 years to get a degree in furniture manufacture. I would return to the business and I suppose introduce a lot of the technology and the computers and the manufacturing systems to allow us to, I suppose, expand our business into different areas. I suppose the most striking thing initially was the dark red colour on the back wall that sort of came out from the wall at you and made that space feel, rather than the Gothic arch feeling further away, it nearly jumped off the wall at you, and I felt there was too much going on. It needed to be simplified and allow some things like the beautiful windows each side of that arch to become more part of the sanctuary, and rather than this dominant red panel that was at the back. Just wanted to simplify the whole sanctuary back to retain the beautiful elements that is original to the church and highlight them through the addition of simple modern intervention like the ambo top and the chair and the cross to the back wall. I think the idea of framing the individual steps with the oak again just gives that sense of a special space. I think the biggest issue we had originally was the two square panels that were adjoining onto the main Gothic arch. And in effect, they had destroyed the shape of that Gothic arch because the detail was then missing from the bottom section. And to reinstate that Gothic arch back to its original detail and then create the two screens each side of it, but are independent to it, would give a lovely sense of, I suppose, encasing the sanctuary or giving a backdrop to our sanctuary. So we would have shortened all of the benches, and rather than just shorten them from one side, we've shortened them from both sides, and then we've cut in the sides to make it look like they have never been touched. So you really can't really tell that the benches have been shortened. And the addition of the new padded kneelers with the protection blocks on the end gives another air of comfort and improves the ergonomics of the bench from a user point of view. So the presider's chair, I suppose the one key element, we kept it as a very simple piece of furniture, just Gothic arch detail, just tying in with the Gothic arch that it's the main detail within the whole structure of the church, and then bringing the cross from the people's bench back into the back of the chair, just continuing that same cross detail. The chair is made of solid oak throughout. It's all laminated up into slabs and then carved out to give the individual components before it's assembled. So the brass screens that flank each side of the main Gothic arch are actually a continuation of that Gothic arch by joining on to the side of the main arch in the sanctuary. And again, we've brought out cross elements which reflect the same detail as the main cross, which is on the back wall of the church, and tying them two together because they create the overall backdrop to the sanctuary. And I think it's important that they're all interrelated to each other over the back wall, that there's a sense of them all being of the same. Rather than before where we had a Gothic arch and then square panels with mouldings which weren't relevant to the overall design. I think we'll have a much more cohesive design to the sanctuary when we're finished. To date, we've done just under 3,000 church projects in 4 different continents, and we've a total of 17 cathedrals completed, and our largest project to date will be Knock Basilica. And I suppose our most prestigious project was to make the papal chair for the papal visit there for Pope Francis in Knock, and that chair is now in the museum in Knock, and we have a replica here in the showroom just to show people when they come, which is a nice thing to have. We currently employ 22 people. One of the members of staff is actually one of the original founders of the company with my father, John, who's been working here for the last, just coming up on 50 years. I suppose when I joined the business, another 3 or 4 people who I studied with and worked with joined the company on the technical aspect of what we do. They've now grown up to create, I suppose, a new generation for the company going forward. We've got a great group of skilled people here, which is very hard found, and we're just very, very lucky to have such a great team here at ICS.
The first thing you might notice on the left is a plaque. This plaque, it has the name of a Father Heslin. And despite our best efforts, we can find very little, except that he died at a very young age of 35. And we know that his uncle was parish priest of this parish. But for me, the fact that we know so little about this man makes it all the more interesting. And for me, it is always like the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in the United States. It represents the faith, the prayer, the generosity of the people of the past in this community and in this parish. All who are, if you like, the living stones that make this such a sacred and holy place. Another aspect of the renovation was the moving of the baptismal font from the top of the steps near the sacristy door down to be close to the people, so that when we have a baptism now, the babies, the parents, the family can be close to the baptismal font.
From the onset, it was very important for Father Frankie and indeed the pastoral council that where possible we use local people. Noel Hearn especially, he was kind of foreman on the job and he took great pride. It's obviously his local church as well. And people like Ronan and Enda and Alan and Breach, they're all local people, and it was very important to them that the end product would be what we wanted it to be. So it was actually very rewarding working together with people from Drumshanbo, trying to get the church up to the standard it ended up.
Just another part of the renovation was the installing of the 2 new shrines to the Sacred Heart and to Our Lady. The statue of Our Lady was presented by the people of the parish to the church in 1951. So that again brings about the part of the past. And I think this is important. When we were carrying out the work to the church, we wanted it to be for the next 40 or 50 years. So we wanted it to be for the young people, for the future. But this gift to the future is from the people of the past. It's the generosity of the people of the parish for many, many years that has made this renovation possible.
I'd like to thank the wonderful team that worked on this project. Shane, the main contractor, and his team, they've done a fabulous job, and we had plenty of discussions on things, and some could have been heated and whatever, but I think at the end of the day, I think we came up with what has turned out to be a really nice job. I suppose I felt I was very fortunate the night that the church was handed over and my job was finished. The nuns came in for night prayer, and afterwards I talked to the sisters, and Mother Angela just said to me that she felt it was serene and it just made her want to pray. And I think if I've achieved that, I'm very happy.
This holy place is shining like a new pin, with its new clothes on, we're back where we belong. This holy place, a place of hopes and prayers, a place of joy and tears, a place of peace. This holy place is part of us. It's more than just a church, it's the very heart and soul of us. This holy place, our faith first saw the light. Baptized in Christ, blessed forevermore. This holy place has always been a sanctuary. We are safe and free in the house of God. This holy place is part of us. It's more than just a church, it's the very heart and soul of us. And the shepherd feeds his flock and guides them safely home. And this church is our rock, here we stand to pass the faith along. This holy place is where life's journey ends, and we are born again to eternal life. And all around in hallowed ground the faithful rest, close to the Sacred Heart, close to the ones they love. This holy place is part of us. It's more than just a church. It's the very heart and soul of us. This holy place is shining like a new pin. With its new clothes on, we're back where we belong. It will keep us strong. We're back where we belong.